Hey everyone, TimaeuSS here, and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail videos. Our CM bros have been cooking, and the Fu Xuan guide is now available, and they have some interesting takes on this tier 0 solo sustaining support. But I think one thing we can all agree from the global side and CN side is that she is absolutely busted. She is so strong. She does it all, supporting the team, making sure they're alive, sustaining the team with heals, as well as making sure that your carries do even more damage with the crit rate buff, max HP buff, and also crit damage buff if you get her at E1. However, there are a few interesting takes from the CN in terms of how you build her. You can see here that they do showcase several builds. Now, this is one of the builds that they show HP percentage chest, HP percentage boots with the defense percentage orb and energy rope. Now, personally, when I saw Fu Xuan, I was like, you know what, this is so straightforward, right? HP percentage chest, speed boots, energy rope, and HP orb. Now, if you take a look at the stats they're aiming for with this build, they're essentially looking at 8.2 thousand HP, 1.7 thousand defense, and a 47% resist as kind of the break point. And this makes a super tanky Fu Xuan. If you swap to a speed boots, you probably drop down to about 7,000. Now, this is not with optimal gear, because I've already seen Grimrose Fu Xuan. He showed it to us, and oh my god, it is a broken Fu Xuan. If you can get his stats, for sure speed boots. But you at least want about, I think, 1.2 thousand in terms of the defense. And they talked about it here is that her Lycon is actually not absolutely needed. Okay, her Lycon is not that needed. So for most of the players pulling for Fu Xuan, at least grab one copy, and you saw that that was the free-to-play option to to the Lycon. The current Lycon that she has, energy regen, is very useful. It allows her to go EAA, so skill, auto attack, and it's a pretty decent SP skill point positive loop. But her signature Lycon does help with the longevity of the fight, especially if you're using her in other game modes other than memory chaos, right? But she is so damn good. So let's take a look at some of the other viabilities in terms of the builds, because I know we talked about how there are different builds, and they do address the speed boot discussion as well. So let's skip forward to the Eidolon part first. So they do have recommendations on the Eidolon. So the first Eidolon, as we know, is increases by crit damage by 30%, right? Which is really good. In 30% is quite a lot. So if you have the option, if you want to bring more out of your hybrid carry, you can technically go S1, which is two copies of Fu Xuan to bring into E1, sorry, Eidolon 1, and then S0, so no copies of the Lycon, and then just run the free-to-play Lycon. That is also one option. Otherwise, you know, the best they've recommended is E1 S1, so 2 copies of Fu Xuan and then 1 copies of the Super Division 1 Lycon. There is an E2, so you can see, all right, they do show the damage chart, because there's always going to be the Fu Xuan meme, because her ultimate, her Eidolon 6, her ultimate form essentially gives her more insane amounts of damage. It's a HP loss calculation, and they add it up all together, and you can do really heavy damage, 314% of kind of her damage output. If you want to build a Fu Xuan, they do have a DPS Fu Xuan gear set in the later part of the video, which we'll explore as well. But personally, I think that's copium. I really think that is copium. So let's take a look at their recommendations on the Lycons and the relics. So in terms of the relics, we talked about it in the first beginning. They show that you can run, of course, the defense set and the defense orb, and then just go for damage reduction. So rope, you most likely will go for energy rope, right? Energy rope is going to be pretty much set. The only time they talk about when you don't use the energy rope is when you bring her into the swarm, for example, with teammates. In the swarm, because of how Fu Xuan takes damage distribution, when the enemy uses a heavy hitting AoE, she is going to take a huge chunk, and that's when they recommend an HP rope with defense substats as well. Now, in terms of the boots, I think this is going to be the most contested topic, but if you are using, for example, Seele as your main DPS or Dang Han, you're going to be very skill point hungry. So you want to rely on Fu Xuan's skill point generation. If your Fu Xuan is strong enough, as in you have really good substats, okay, speed boots is 100% the way to go. Again, you can go EAA, which is the CN representation of skill, auto attack, basic attack, basically, into the ultimate. Now, if your Fu Xuan is less than 6,000 HP, and if there is AoE stuff coming out, then you want to go for the HP boots. Now, this is the relic of choice. Again, we go over the main stats: HP chest, speed boots, HP or defense percentage main orb, depending on what you need. You want to hit that 1600 defense, and then rope is going to be energy. And we talked about the alternatives. Now, the 2-piece set they recommend is that you want to have, so this is fantastic because I have a ton of these 2-piece, right? This is the guard 2-piece, which you get from farming the quantum set. This, I believe, is the damage reduction one. So it's a guard 2-piece, and then you run it with the HP2 set. Now, I've seen builds where you can do the 2-piece speed set, and then you run the HP2 set. It really just depends on how your speed substat goes. You just want to hit that 134 to get 2 turns in the first cycle, and then that's it, right? Once you hit 134, if you have enough, then just go for the damage reductions. And now this last row is basically the Copian build. E6 Fu Xuan, just build her like Blade. You have to run crit rate chest, because her crit, obviously, I mean, she does get some from traces, but unless you have godly substats in crit rate, then it's going to be a crit rate chest. And then you run the 4-piece HP, which also gives 16% crit at max level after you take damage twice. There's also another technically a viable build, is that there is a 4-piece that 2-piece HP, and then a 2-piece of the abundance set, which gives 10% HP healing. And this is, again, helping Fu Xuan sustain. But I think most builds are either going to be 2-piece speed, 2-piece HP, or, like we said, 2-piece damage reduction, and then the 2-piece HP set. Now, talking about her Lycon. Now, her Lycon was fantastic in boosting her kit, but it's not needed. They already talk about how the heal is per wave. That means it's more for dailies, and her HP max increase is really good, and her own team percentage damage buff is really fantastic as well. However, this energy regeneration of 12% is not game breaking. Okay, so Fu Xuan, when she goes the EAA route, which is skill into auto attack, and if you want to ult after that, technically you just need to get hit 3 times. And because she's a preservation unit, getting hit 3 times in 3 of her turns, it's quite possible. It is very possible, and that's without her Lycon. Having her signature Lycon just makes it so that you only need to get hit twice, so just 1 time less in comparison, right? And that's with the energy boots as well. So they're saying here that from the CM bros that, you know what, it's not absolutely needed. However, the HP stat, the raw stat, and the defense stat on this cone is really strong. If you watch my previous video with Dang Han, we already know that Dang Han's Lycon, the attack is one of the highest in the entire game. So we're setting basically new flat stat standards for the game, and Fu Xuan is definitely the top tier Lycon in terms of raw stats for the preservation, right? So the HP and defense is huge there in comparison. However, the alternative, the F2P cone, is going to be not bad. This is the Herta cone, right? This is still a 5-star cone, but it is the Herta cone that you can exchange for. Now, this increases resist by 16%, which is still very good, right? Resist you definitely want to have, because if Fu Xuan gets CC'd, it's not ideal, even though she does have, of course, the CC resist. But resist is always good on a tank unit, and this increases the resist by 16%. And when the warrior gets attacked, if she does not have a shield, then she will be able to generate a 32% max HP shield that lasts for 2 turns. And this activates once every 3 turns, and also when she has a shield, her damage taken decreases by 24%. This cone is actually so insane, okay? The survivability aspect offered by this cone cannot be overlooked, and honestly, it's really good. It's really strong, and everyone can get this cone to super imposition 5, which means that it's even more added bonus to the unit. And this cone also has longevity as well because of that shield applying every time, and suits better in situations like the similar universe. Now the next one is going to be the Japard cone. Japard cone is definitely another option, along with some other 4 stars that are available to free-to-play players. Japard cone just allows her to be targeted more, which means that your EAA, your skill auto attack rotation, will most likely happen way more than we think. So this definitely is an option as well. Now the rest I don't think are going to be viable in terms of the other 4-star cone options. I mean, you could go for it, but you have the Herta one, which means free-to-play players can exchange. So let's just stop there. Now, in terms of the team build, okay, my God, because of how much it provides to the team, you're fitting her in as a, of course, support plus a healer, sustainer, and a crit damage buffer, crit rate buffer. She just does everything's crazy. And of course, she completes the mono quantum team that everyone's been kind of waiting for. Now this team is very skill point hungry, mind you, okay? And Fu Xuan, Silverwolf, Seele, and QQ. Well, this is the recommended mono quantum, but I think the best way to run her at its current moment, until we get unless you use a support that is not quantum, is going to go for dual quantum, right? Similar to how Seele was run with Silverwolf, and then you run 2 kind of supporting casts. You go for dual typing so that you run your team into a boss that is either weak to quantum already, or weak to one of the 2 dual typing you want to run, and then you 100% will apply the weaker one, right? So that's one way to build it. Fu Xuan's team is honestly just so flexible. It's crazy how good they are going to be, just because she brings so much to the table. Now, in terms of, I think, the best pairing, I'm going to run her with Silverwolf 100%, and you basically allow her to solo sustain the rest of the team. I most likely will run Seele, and then for the last position, I'm thinking either Bronya or Ting Yun at the moment, depending on where I will fit my Bronya, either with Dang Hun or someone else. But technically, Fu Xuan, you don't even need to run her with Silverwolf, just slot her in the solo sustainer. For Memory Chaos, we've been using Locha as one side, one half, and then you can use Fu Xuan basically for the other half. I mean, crowd control, resist, heal, longevity, heal into each wave. It's honestly bonkers, right? It is honestly bonkers. And they also talk about the viability with Lynx and Blade. I think it's a bit overkill. You're just never going to die. It's really crazy. But let me know your thoughts on Fu Xuan and how you're going to run her in terms of the team compositions. We see, of course, very popular teams. I mean, this is going to be really interesting in terms of what they open up in terms of the team building. And yeah, let me know. I mean, Silverwolf stocks just went up. Jingyuan stocks just went up because of the CC control, and of course buffing that crit rate and crit damage if you have her at E1. So do you think she's as good or better than Locha? And how many copies are you gonna go for? Remind you that we have some waifus coming up in the next patch as well. So man, MiHoYo is releasing some good stuff, and I'm all for it. I am all for it. Anyhow, it's TimaeuSS here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye now.